everybody, this is StayCalmCursory, and today I am going to start off with a one-shot. This is called Silent Conversations, and it's an interesting text-based game where you actually explore the poems and stories of several famous authors. The one I'm going to be looking at today is by H.P. Lovecraft, and it's called The Forgotten City. Now, I played this game about 5 years ago when it first came out, and I remember enjoying it because of its unique style. And just to show you what the gameplay is like, I'm going to play through the tutorial. Although it seems I don't have much of a choice. Touch as many words as you can. You're the I above this sentence. Use your right and left arrow keys to move. Notice the words lighting up. Your goal is to read the stories and poems in this game thoroughly by touching as many words as you can. Press any key, try Z to jump. Pressing the key longer makes you jump higher. Some words are hard to touch. That's okay. You don't have to get them the first time through. Leave them behind and get them some other time when you're interested in getting 100%. Sometimes you'll find words that are powerful. They clear the screen when their letters hit you and keep you from touching words for a while. Touch the powerful words first if you can. Then, the words you missed. In the upper right, you'll see a grade showing how you're doing. You get a good grade for touching every word in the piece, and a better grade if you never get hit by a powerful word. The level ends when you touch the last word. If you ever want to leave a level, just hit your escape key. Good luck. So there you have it. You're mostly just running through the text. And that does sound a bit boring, but, well, you'll see. It almost feels like you're actually there. The Nameless City, Part 1, by H.P. Lovecraft. When I drew nigh the nameless city, I knew it was accursed. I was traveling in a parched and terrible valley under the moon, and afar I saw it protruding uncannily above the sands, as part of a corpse may protrude from an ill-made grave. Fear spoke from the age-worn stones of this hoary survivor of the deluge, this great-grandfather of the eldest pyramid, and a viewless aura repelled me and bade me retreat from antique and sinister secrets that no man should see, and no man else had dared to see. Remote in the desert of Arabi lies the nameless city, crumbling and inarticulate, its low walls nearly hidden by the sands of uncounted ages. It must have been thus before the first stones of Memphis were laid, and while the bricks of Babylon were yet unbaked. There is no legend so old as to give it a name, or recall that it was ever alive, but it is told of in whispers around campfires, and muttered about by grandames in the tents of the sheiks, so that all the tribes shun it without wholly knowing why. It was of this place that Abdul Azred, the mad poet, dreamed the night before he sang his unexplained couplet. That is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange aeons even death may die. I should have known that the Arabs had good reason for shunning the nameless city. The city told of strange tales, but seen by no living man, yet I defied them, and went into the untrodden waste with my camel. I alone have seen it, and that is why no other face bears such hideous lines of fear as mine, why no other man shivers so horribly when the night wind rattles the windows. When I came upon it in the ghastly stillness of unending sleep, it looked at me, chilly from the rays of a cold moon amidst the desert heat. And as I returned its look, I forgot my triumph at finding it, and stopped still with my camel to wait for the dawn. For hours I waited, till the east grew gray and the stars faded, and the gray turned to rosette light edged with gold. I heard a moaning and saw a storm of sand stirring among the antique stones, though the sky was clear and the vast reaches of the desert still. Then suddenly, above the desert's far rim, came the blazing edge of the sun, seen through the tiny sandstorm which was passing away. And in my fevered state I fancied that from some remote depth there came a crash of musical metal. To hail from the fiery disk as Memnon hails it from the banks of the Nile, my ears rang and my imagination seethed as I led my camel slowly across the land to that unvocal place, that place which I alone of living men had seen. In and out amongst the shapeless foundations of houses and places I wandered, finding never a carving or inscription to tell of these men, if men they were, who built this city and dwelt therein so long ago. The antiquity of the spot was unwholesome, and I longed to encounter some sign or device to prove that the city was indeed fashioned by mankind. There were certain proportions and dimensions in the ruins which I did not like. I had with me many tools and dug much within the walls of the obliterated edifices, but progress was slow and nothing significant was revealed. When night and the moon returned, I felt a chill wind which brought new fear, so that I did not dare to remain in the city. And as I went outside the antique walls to sleep, a small sighing sandstorm gathered behind me, blowing over the grey stones, though the moon was bright and most of the desert still. I awakened just at dawn from a pageant of horrible dreams, my ears ringing as from some metallic peal. I saw the sun peering readily through the last gusts of a little sandstorm that hovered over the nameless city, and marked the quietness of the rest of the landscape. Once more I ventured within the brooding ruins that swelled beneath the sand, like an ogre under a coverlet, and again dug vainly for relics of the forgotten race. At noon I rested, and in the afternoon I spent much time tracing the walls and bygone streets, and the outlines of the nearly vanished buildings. I saw that the city had been mighty indeed, and wondered at the sources of its greatness. To myself I pictured all the splendors of an age so distant Chaldea could not recall it, and thought of Sarnath the doomed, that stood in the land of Manar, when mankind was young, and of Ib, that was carven of grey stone before mankind existed. All at once I came upon a place where the bedrock rose stark through the sand, and formed a low cliff. And here I saw with joy what seemed to promise further traces of the antediluvian people. Hewn rudely on the face of the cliff were the unmistakable facades of several small squat rock houses or temples, whose interior might preserve many secrets of ages too remote for calculation. Though sandstorms had long effaced any carvings which may have been outside. Low and sand-choked were all the dark apertures near me, but I cleared one with my spade, and crawled through it carrying a torch to reveal whatever mysteries it might hold. When I was inside, I saw that the cavern was indeed a temple, and beheld plain sights of the race that had lived and worshipped before the desert was a desert. Primitive altars, pillars, and niches, all curiously low, were not absent. and though I saw no sculptures or frescoes, there were many singular stones clearly shaped into symbols by artificial means. The lowness of the chiseled chamber was very strange, for I could hardly kneel upright. But the area was so great that my torch showed only part of it at a time. I shuddered oddly in some of the far corners, for certain altars and stones suggested forgotten rites of a terrible, revolting, and inexplicable nature, and made me wonder what manner of men could have made and frequented such a temple. When I had seen all that the place contained, I crawled out again, avid to find what the temples might yield. Night had now approached, yet the tangible things I had seen made curiosity stronger than fear, so that I did not flee from the long moon-cast shadows that had daunted me when I first saw the nameless city. In the twilight I cleared another aperture, and with a new torch crawled into it, finding more vague stones and symbols, though nothing more definite than the other temple had contained. The room was just as low, but much less broad, ending in a very narrow passage, crowded with obscure and cryptical shrines. About these shrines I was prying when the noise of a wind and my camel outside broke through the stillness, and drew me forth to see what could have frightened the beast. The moon was gleaming vividly over the primitive ruins, lighting a dense cloud of sand that seemed blown by a strong but decreasing wind from some point along the cliff ahead of me. I know it was this chilly, sandy wind which had disturbed the camel, and I was about to lead him to a place of better shelter, when I chanced to glance up and saw that there was no wind atop the cliff. This astonished me and made me fearful again. But I immediately recalled the sudden local winds that I had seen and heard before, at sunrise and sunset, and judged it was a normal thing. I decided it came from some rock fissure leading to a cave, and watched the troubled sand to trace it to its source. Soon perceiving that it had come from the black orifice of a temple, a long distance south of me, almost out of sight. Against the choking sand cloud I plodded toward this temple, which as I neared it loomed larger than the rest, and shewed a doorway far less clogged with caked sand. I would have entered had not the terrific force of the icy wind almost quenched my torch. It poured madly out of the dark door, sighing uncannily as it ruffled the sand and spread among the weird ruins. Soon it grew fainter, and the sand grew more and more still, till finally all was at rest again, but a presence seemed stalking among the spectral stones of the city. And when I glanced at the moon, it seemed to quiver, as though mirrored in unquiet waters. I was more afraid than I could explain, but not enough to dull my thirst for wonder. So as soon as the wind was quite gone, I crossed into the dark chamber from which it had come. So there it was. That was part 1 of The Nameless City by H.P. Lovecraft. If I'm not mistaken, there are 3 parts in all. And I will do the remaining 2 in separate videos. Oh boy, was that a challenge to read, especially keeping up with the flow of the stories. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. The regular playthroughs will resume. That was just an exercise to get me back into the hang of things. So, thank you for tuning in this time. Until next time.